I was just curious what might have come up for you in that inquiry at the end of the meditation. What really matters? And did you feel it in the body anywhere? What matters and where do I feel it? So as human beings, we have to spend a lot of time and effort and care just trying to be okay and fed and sheltered and get through our days. And when those basic needs are met, and when we're safe enough in the moment, and we ask ourselves that question, I bet that what matters is not something that you can buy, not something that someone can sell you. What matters is something very likely deep and sacred and connecting. And the whole spiritual path is about discerning what really matters and what's true, and then acting from that. And that inevitably leads to and through the heart. And the practice of love that we're going to look at today is called Metta in Buddhism. And we've been looking week by week at the paramis, these beautiful qualities of heart and mind, generosity, virtue or integrity, renunciation, letting go, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolve, which Jokai spoke on last week, loving kindness, and equanimity, which Beth will speak on next week. And it's said that the Buddha worked with these qualities over countless lifetimes, 100,000 great eons and 4 incalculables of lives that he led, perfecting these beautiful qualities, bringing them to fullness. And that all of that effort over so many lives culminated in his final life as a Buddha. And I really love that, whatever body he was born into, human, animal, celestial, whatever gender, whatever life circumstances, he kept practicing with these beautiful qualities. And framing it that way is really helpful for me because it allows me to relax into the practice, knowing that it took the Buddha countless lifetimes to perfect these beautiful qualities. And so it may take me a little while too, that I can practice outside of a schedule, outside of time, and trust the incremental building of these beautiful qualities. So when I talk about metta or teach on Fridays, a text that I go back to again and again is from Nelson Mandela in Long Walk to Freedom, where he writes, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." And this is exactly what the Buddha taught, that we can teach ourselves to love, or we can reteach ourselves to love, that we can reclaim access to the love that's naturally available to us and within us, and that we have this right and this access, this opportunity, and that this practice is actually essential to cultivating wisdom. And I say reclaim because I believe, and maybe you do too, that the well of kindness, of love, of joy is deep, deep within us, and it gets covered over. The heart becomes armored for its own protection to get through life. And if you grew up in this culture, and particularly if you were a being socialized to have a male gender identity, there's a message that's received that being freely loving is weak. You need to be tough, you need to be strong. Being loving is not seen as being strong. If I'm loving, I will be taken advantage of. If I'm loving, I'll be bullied. If I'm loving, I'll be hurt or put down. So when I was about 6 and learning to read, I remember exploring a drawer in the dresser in my room, and the drawer was where things I had worn and used when I was a toddler were kept. And I remember opening that drawer and seeing a sweatshirt folded on top. And I recognized, oh yeah, I remember wearing that. And it had two hearts on it. And the slogan that was written on the t-shirt was, I love everybody. And reading it for myself at 6 years of age or whatever it was, I felt sadness and I felt shame. Sadness because I knew that that wasn't true anymore. I didn't love everybody. And there was part of me that even at that age felt sorry that, oh, that's not true anymore. And then there was this shame that if I wore that shirt or anybody knew I'd ever worn that shirt, it would make me a target. I would be laughed at. I would be seen as weak. And so as we work with these energies of the heart as an adult, the question is there, is it okay to have an open heart now? Is it safe? So just spending a moment with the word metta. It's a Pali word, Pali being the language that the Buddha's teachings were recorded in. And as any word, it isn't the thing, it's a pointer toward a feeling and an experience. And so when we translate it into English, we can call it love if we like, and that word isn't too charged for us. Most of these words were translated in the Victorian era, and so they sometimes have a sort of archaic feeling, like loving kindness is a beautiful word, but we don't use it very often. Friendliness, open-heartedness, or we can simply just adopt the word metta and come into a new relationship with this concept. Sometimes I like to do that, use the Pali words and feel into how I want to relate to that freshly, not with the baggage of an English translation. So metta has four essential qualities to me. It's loving and kind, it's boundless, unbounded, infinite, it's impartial, it doesn't play favorites, and it has this sense of radiating, moving out from, not like a psh, but more of a soft spreading from the heart. And it guides how we are in the world and the actions that we actually take and make, especially as a parami. The paramis are qualities of the heart and mind that are expressed in action, like the Buddha in those thousands of lifetimes, expressing the paramis in action. And in the teachings, this energy of the heart takes several forms. There's metta, this beautiful unconditional love. And when it meets suffering, it manifests as compassion. Oh, I care. I want this suffering to end. And when it meets joy, it manifests as appreciative joy. Oh, good. Something beautiful is happening. May it continue. And then there's this aspect of equanimity, equanimous love. Equanimity is the loving energy that gives up that illusion that we can control life, and takes up that we can hold sorrow and we can hold joy in the hands of wisdom and experience. And so we talk about these aspects of the heart, the Brahma Viharas, separately sometimes, and we practice them separately, but they're also one. They're a framework of the whole heart, wholeheartedness. And they relate to each other. Each energy balances the one before it. So last week, Jokai spoke on adhitthana, or resolve. And resolve, that strength, is balanced by metta, by loving kindness. And then loving kindness is balanced by equanimity, that sense of being able to hold evenly. Equanimity is what 6-year-old me, looking at that old sweatshirt, needed and didn't actually have very much of, and which I didn't see in the people around me. So metta and our practice, metta is not like a commandment. It's not like thou shalt be loving or else. And it's not like a bliss state. It's not like do it right and you'll get to experience these lovely feelings and be separate from the world. And it's not a prayer in the sense of asking for something or praying to some being for an intercession. A mind that's full of love and joy and compassion is definitely a nice place to be, a pleasant abiding here and now, the Buddha said. And it's also a really valuable means to seeing clearly, to discerning, to knowing, to this practice of insight. A mind that's inclined toward caring, toward joy, toward evenness is a mind that's at some relative place of ease, flexible, nimble, less clouded, freer. When I'm triggered and my mind state is one of anger or jealousy or even simple annoyance, and I'm caught in that, in other words, I don't see that it's happening, and I'm not holding that experience with kindness, then I'm already not seeing clearly in that moment because I'm contracted, I'm tight, I'm likely stuck in a view that separates me from myself, separates me from whoever I'm relating to. And so my response is really likely to be unconsidered, unconscious, unkind, defensive. So my teacher, Irina Weissman, said and says again, if it's not kind, it's not true. If it's not kind, it's not true. And I really scratched my head at that the first time I heard it, because I mean, that sounds really nice, but what does that actually mean? And then over time, I felt like I understood, I got an understanding that unkindness contains aversion. And when there's aversion in my view, the lens that I'm looking through isn't clear. It's not accurate. My view isn't complete. How can I see the truth about myself or you or life when my mind is agitated or tense or rigid or fearful? And seeing with affection, with care, with acceptance, that conditions the mind in a way that it is safe enough, undefended enough, vulnerable enough to look deeply, to look and see deeply. So I like the image of just imagining that you're holding a tiny duckling or a kitten or some animal that you think is cute in your cupped hands. Just the interest and care that you would feel observing that little being, the tenderness, the wonder, the patience, the clarity of your observation in that moment because it's unclouded. That's the kind of care that juices our practice. That's the sort of loving attention that allows for the clear seeing of insight. So in 2020, when we went all online because of the pandemic and quarantine, we started a Metta group. And for 5 years, we've met every Friday at 4:30 p.m. to practice these energies of the heart on Zoom. And just to say, you're all welcome anytime to that group. And it's not a class series. It's like you can drop in anytime and enjoy it. And so in the practice, we sometimes use phrases like the ones I shared at the beginning of the meditation, or we use visualizations, guided meditations, different techniques to teach ourselves love or to reteach ourselves love, to build this framework of the heart that supports the child heart and the adult heart. And I often offer it, and sometimes Mary and Valerie, Beth, Rule will offer practice. And there's something that is so nourishing in priming the pump of the heart together, just like meditating together is so nourishing. And as with all of the paramis, this is a practice of showing up again and again. Regular practice changes us, it reconditions us, it creates new neural pathways, new habits of mind and heart. And one of the most succinct and true and clear teachings of the Buddha is where he said, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. Whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. We can feel the truth of that. And yet, what is it to actually notice that? How am I inclining the mind? How do I want to incline the mind? And when the Buddha is speaking about the mind in this teaching, he's using the word chitta, which includes the heart, the mind-heart, like that system, the mind-heart system. It's so simple and yet so profoundly empowering. If we want more love and compassion in the world and in our heart, we have the means. We have the power to do that. We have the tools. And over time, you see it. You see it arising and kicking in. You know, where at one point I might have responded with annoyance because someone misunderstood me, or I lost patience, or because the world is so effed up. I have this other possibility, and it arises naturally because of practice. Like I told you when, if you were here on the week we did patience, like, you know, I got to the end of that 2-hour car rental line, not even knowing if I was going to be able to get a car. And, you know, the arising in my heart, the conditioning I've been doing with metta practice gave me the choice to say, to think, okay, when I get up to the end of the line, I'm going to be kind to that person on the counter. And I was. But I don't know, like 10 years ago, would I have been? But I've worked on conditioning my mind, and I notice it's showing up when I need it. So I want to share a bit of the most well-known teaching of the Buddha on metta, loving kindness, called the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And I'm just going to read part of it. And this translation is by Thich Nhat Hanh. This is what one contemplates. May everyone be happy and safe, and may their hearts be filled with joy. May all beings live in security and in peace, beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one out of anger or ill will wish anyone any harm. Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, cultivate boundless love to offer all living beings in the entire cosmos. Let that boundless love pervade the whole universe above, below, and across. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying, as long as we are awake, we should maintain this mindfulness of love in our own heart. This is the noblest way of living. Not adding to the pain in the world, not reacting to hate with hate, not reacting to greed with greed or anger. This feeling of metta, loving, boundless, impartial, radiant. I mean, it's kind of amazing what the Buddha says. Unconditional love of a good mother or a parent for their only child, yet then applying that to all beings everywhere without exception. That's a big ask. In some Tibetan lineages, there's a teaching where you contemplate that all living beings over the course of countless eons have been your mother at one time, and you have been the mother of all living beings at one time. And then the question is, how would I treat this person? How would I treat this being? if that's true or even possible. So one of the things I love about metta too is that it's very creative, like that's a very creative view and a lovely one. And we often practice with phrases like we used at the beginning of the meditation period. And the phrases, if we use them, are just simple phrases, whatever works for you. They're just a bridge. They're not magic in themselves. These aren't magic words. It's a magic feeling. It's a transforming feeling. But the words aren't so important. We use the phrases as a support. And then we offer these friendly wishes to ourselves, to a dear one or a benefactor, to what's called a neutral person, someone that we don't know very well, moving outward, and then a difficult person, and then finally to all beings, wherever they may be found. And there's always this sense of radiating outward to include all sentient beings. And where we start is up to us. Maybe it's easy to start with ourselves, that's the classic teaching, or maybe we start with a dear one, and as the feeling builds, we send it wider and wider. And we can practice with imagery if that's more available to us. Often on Fridays, we practice with the idea of sharing something, the warmth of our heart, the light of our heart, the jewel of awakening with all beings. I have a teacher who does beautiful guided metta practices where you imagine offering bouquets of flowers to everyone who comes into your garden, or beautiful, hot, tasty soup. And you can really get very creative with this practice. And just to offer a few ways of working with metta that I find helpful, have found helpful over the years. First is go where it's easiest, particularly at the beginning when you're starting it. Find where it's easiest for you to feel this energy. Sometimes it's not to a person at all. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's to a divine being of some sort. Or you might find just sitting outside and listening to the wind and the insects and the birds allows the heart to open. That can be a beautiful way into the practice. Can I just love life unfolding around me? And then when you inevitably hear the leaf blower or the car alarm or whatever it is, instead of feeling aversion, just thinking, oh, can I love this being making this noise? If you're working with the category of the difficult person, it may not feel possible or sincere to offer wishes of well-being to that person. And so when that happens, what I like to do is just notice, can I simply refrain from wishing them harm? Can I simply refrain from wishing them harm? It's interesting to notice, I ask myself, do I wish them harm? If I do, is it possible to refrain from that? And notice what happens there. Judgment comes up a lot in this practice for me. And the Dalai Lama said, love is the absence of judgment. So I ask myself when judging thoughts come up, what is this moment without judgment? And sometimes when the judging mind is really strong, I turn that into my metta practice and offer myself the absence of certain energies. Like, may I be free from self-judgment. May I be free from self-doubt. May I be free from self-criticism. May I be free from self-reproach. Maybe not even wishing the positives yet. Just like, may I just be free from beating myself up a lot. And if it's really hard to offer metta to yourself, and it is for a lot of us, it's really good information and an invitation to inquire. Sometimes it can help to see yourself as you were when you were a child, and offer the metta phrases, or in a moment when you were deeply happy. And then letting the practice do its thing. I don't have to make this practice work. I only need to let it just show up for the practice and have faith, confidence that it does work. The loosening, the softening, the unfolding happens in its own time. When a hard, dried out sponge is placed in a bowl of water, it's not necessary to do anything. The presence of water is enough. The fibers open up and the sponge becomes saturated full. And another metta practice that I love is just also being aware that we can receive metta just as much as give it. And it can be helpful to reflect that in any moment, there are beings in this world wishing you love, wishing you freedom, wishing you care. Because there are always people in this world practicing metta and offering it to all beings. So sometimes just receiving that, like, may I feel that love? May I feel that care that's being offered to me freely? And so metta asks us to be with what's difficult, the places inside that we find hard to love, the fearful places, the places of shame or anger or jealousy. And so can I love this one right here, including the shadows? And as I've shared metta practice through weeks and years, with so much sadness, cruelty, injustice, turmoil, fear, it seems like every Friday we've been through a hell of a week. And then I've realized that there is another really important aspect to this practice of love. Yes, metta is loving and kind, it's radiant, it's boundless, it's impartial, and it is also defiant. It says that I choose to be loving no matter what. And we're getting so much practice these days with the no matter what part. Love can be defiant. Bell Hooks wrote in her powerful book, All About Love, as a culture, we are obsessed with the notion of safety. Yet we do not question why we live in states of extreme anxiety and dread. Fear is the primary force upholding structures of domination. Fear keeps us from trusting in love. And she says, love is the only sane and satisfactory response to the problem of human existence. Love is the only sane and satisfactory response to the problem of human existence. And metta does not have to be grand. It can be very simple, very gentle, just a simple befriending of what's here. Maybe it's just the energy of the Buddha's smile, that soft, knowing, wise, kind smile. So a few years ago, we were coming back to Palm Springs from New Mexico, and we stopped overnight in Sedona, Arizona. And in the morning, we visited this really beautiful Buddhist garden above the city. It's called the Amitabha Buddhist Stupa and Peace Park. And if you've been to Sedona, you remember the beautiful red rocks and the pine trees and the incredibly blue skies. And it was a lovely morning. And in the center of the park was a stupa. And I did some practices. I took refuge, I circumambulated it and chanted and all of that stuff. And then I sat for a while and just really enjoyed the stillness, even though it was a really busy place and there were actually tour buses and people all around it. But there was also this beautiful sense of peace and stillness, even with all the movement. And after a while, I got up and I wandered further and I came upon this beautiful carved wooden Buddha that was about 8 feet tall. And there was just one tiny little bench in front of it. And there was already somebody sitting there. And so I just stood to one side and just, felt what I was feeling, appreciation of the Buddha. And then the figure on the bench just didn't look at me, but she just scooched over a little bit and put her hand out like this. Just an invitation, just a gentle invitation, an offering without words. Join us, join the Buddha, join me. And so I sat down and I took in the moment, the Buddha, the air, my own body, what I was feeling, this person that I was sitting next to. Here was the very definition of a neutral person. And we didn't speak. And I didn't take in more than what she was wearing, light colored pants, dark hair, holding a cane between her legs. And I just felt something so strong. I just felt my heart like just go out to her, the metta being so strong and wishing her health and joy and love and ease. And I just felt really, really into it. And I felt like we were feeling it together. I felt like we were really sharing that. And I didn't look over, and I don't know if she looked over at me. But there we were in the Buddha's presence, in the presence of love, a field of love that we were actually creating together. And that's what makes this practice so powerful, that if we want more love in the world, we can create it. So I sat in this field of love for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I got up and I bowed and walked off. And I didn't look back, but I could really still feel the connection. I didn't have to look to know that it was there. And I felt like the neutral person has now become the beloved through this practice. And for a while after that experience, I could still feel it really vividly. And as I thought about it, I focused a lot on the love that I felt for her, as though that was what was so remarkable. And then I realized that it was her act, that simple making space, that welcoming of the moment that she offered, that touched my heart so deeply and awakened all that love, that we were creating that field of love together. And so that 6-year-old boy who was afraid and ashamed to align with the statement, I love everybody, smiled. It's safe now. Love is as love does. Probably all heard that phrase. Love is as love does. And this is perhaps the most important aspect of metta practice, metta as a parami. We wish metta and we do metta. We wish metta and we do metta. So let's just take a few moments to allow the words to settle, and we'll open the floor. thank you for your kind attention and practice. And so wanting to open the floor online and in the room, and just see anything you might like to share or say or ask. So just wanted to offer a few announcements, and could we pass around the dedication of merit? It's on the table behind. Thanks, Diane and Mark. Yeah. So just a few things to announce. One is that we have our open house. Well, next week Beth will be teaching on equanimity, so please come and learn about the final parami. That's one of Beth's beautiful teachings, the long, loving look at the real, as I remember. And thank you. And and then the week after that, in this room, we're going to have an open house. So we'll have a shorter meditation period, and a little bit from Beth and me and Mary and Valerie, and then we'll have an hour at least for being together, sharing food. So please come to that and enjoy that together. And then also wanting to say we have a residential retreat that's coming up next March, but it's not too early to plan. It'll be March 25th through 29th, and an invitation will be going out to that very soon. And just encouraging you, if you think you might be interested, to register soon. The first month of registration is just for ICD folks, and then after that it will be open to everyone. But see if you might like to do that. And if you have questions about the retreat, March 25th through 29th. Yeah. Oh, Big Bear Retreat Center, yeah, in Big Bear. It's a beautiful spot. I haven't been there yet, but I have heard beautiful things about it. Very comfortable, very conducive to practice. And then we are also putting out a call for board members. We have a small board, a small working board, and we need new members because some of our current members have served for 2 or 3 years or more and are moving on. And as we grow, we really need the support of people who are willing to work on this organization, to be part of the group that steers it and guides it and supports it. And so if that's something that you might be interested in, please look for an email this week coming out on Wednesday that talks more about it and invites you to join. And finally, just thank you so much for practicing with me today and showing up for this community and each other. And so let's offer this dedication of merit, which is really a metta prayer in and of itself. And I'm going to share screen with folks online. Going forth into this world so in need of light, may I bring all the kindness and wisdom I embody to each being and each situation that I meet. May the power of my practice today strengthen my resolve to be an agent of peace and justice in this world. Going forth together into this world so in need of light, may we together bring all the kindness and wisdom we embody to each being and each situation that we meet. May the power of our practice today strengthen our resolve to be agents of peace and justice in this world. We dedicate our practice for the liberation of all beings, the great, the small, the wise, the ignorant, the powerful and the powerless. May all beings be liberated from sorrow and loss, hatred and injustice, scarcity and want, and every form of suffering. May our practice today be a prayer for peace, and may it benefit all beings without exception. Thank you. Thank you all. And if you'd like to, you can keep this a dedication if you'd like, or you can leave it on the table by the dana baskets. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.